How empaths protect their energy during chaotic times, especially how empowered empaths protect their energy. So if you are a highly sensitive person or you are an empath, you will know how it feels to often pick up on the energies of other people, to even maybe over identify, if you're an empath, with other people's pain, emotions, and even the energy that is in the general collective. So highly sensitive people, and particularly empaths, have, they're very finely tuned into not just energy and vibration, but they really are often more consciously aware of energetic patterns around them, and they can really pick up on the wounding of other people, particularly when, if their own empathy is triggered, their own wounding is triggered, or they are struggling with boundaries, maybe they have a bit of anxiety that day, stress, whatever. Now, if you think about you as an individual, as an empath, you are you with your own strengths, and you have what we call your shadow, your vulnerabilities, and that can be all sorts of things that have happened in your life, your well-being, your circumstances, the environment you live in, the jobs that you do, that all these things can impact. Now, how do you become more resilient, and how do you protect your energy? And it's one of those things that I think there's different layers to it, and I think that it depends on what's happening at the time. But the key thing that I would always say, number one, the most important thing, is to be grounded. And grounded, the reason why I'm saying, be grounded is, like, grounding is very overlooked, and it's often looked at very woo-woo. But the reality is we live in a world where we're actually kind of almost programmed and conditioned to be ungrounded. If you think about the amount of time we spend indoors, or we spend on technology, and we're away from nature. And if you think about an environment, what we're actually sitting on, what we're living in, a lot of it's not even natural, it's synthetic, right? And if you think about a plug, like an electrical plug, it has to be grounded so that, it doesn't create havoc in the house and you don't get electrocuted, right? There has to be that grounding route, and you're the same, you have to be grounded. But the reality is, trauma, anxiety, fear, and all sorts of other things can interfere with your ability to ground. Also things like polarity. And that's a whole other story, but there's lots of things that can impact the quality of your ability to ground. So one of the things I would say is, first of all, is really focusing on getting more grounded and doing what you can to support that. As I've studied healing for over 35 years, and, and certain healing modalities and things, they teach you grounding techniques, but a lot of it just didn't seem to work for me. And it was because there was a combination of things going on. I had structural polarity issues, I had some things that were impacting my nervous system, but I also just didn't feel safe. It was like, as a child, I was quite a fearful child, and, in many ways I was ungrounded. But I will put, with this video, I do have some free grounding tips, so you can get access to that, and it points you to all different things that can support your grounding. So I'll give you access to that, and that'll be in the link below the video. So the most important is when you're protecting your energy, you have to be grounded. You have to be in your own body. And grounding is about you being energetically in your body. If you can imagine, like, if you're constantly in your head, you're not fully, like, aware of your body, and you're not fully centered in your body. And there's lots of things with trauma that can create all sorts of things, where this kind of, we're trying to escape from our body, and we can also fragment our energy, and that's from a healer's perspective. Now, if you can't get grounded, that leads to all sorts of challenges. And there's lots of things that can support grounding as you start to learn to get more grounded. And again, there's lots of things that can help, like essential oils, flower essences, as well as tools and techniques. And as I said, there's a lot of things in the free resource. And I do also have a comprehensive grounding course, right? Which is, it's an easy investment. Number 2 is, learning to be more still and at peace. And that's far easier when you're grounded and centered. And certain types of meditation can help you, support you be more centered. But there's also types of meditation that can actually make you more ungrounded if you're not grounded already. And that's the key. And I always prefer to teach people at first more traditional types of meditation, because they teach you to be more disciplined. Make sure you're grounded first, and make meditation part of your daily practice, because it helps your energy to be more inward and to be like when you have a still mind and a more spacious mind, your nervous system is far more supported, and it's easier to feel safe in the body and the mind, the emotions and the spirit, and it all works in tandem. And I have a variety of different types of meditations, and you got lots on the YouTube channel, but also I have my less than 5-minute free meditation. It's a Qigong meditation, really easy to incorporate throughout your day, because like, meditation is not just something you should do once a day or twice a day. Little short bursts throughout the day can really support your nervous system. So this technique is also a really powerful anxiety and stress busting technique, so make sure that you check that out too. So I'll put that again. So that's number 2, meditation. The third thing about energy protection is actually being able to discern energy, to become so energetically aware that you can discern what the energy is. Now, some sensitives and some empaths find that easier than others. I'm someone, for some reason, that notices the subtle energies so much that I can really tell with all sorts of, for example, I trained in many different types of healing modalities, and I could tell the energy of when something is Reiki, maybe someone's bioenergy, something is something else, it's a different type of flavour or energy, and I could describe it. And I can describe, obviously, everyone, when they channel, they can have a slight flavour, but there can be still, it's almost like, something can be an ice cream, you can have different flavours to it, but it's still ice cream. Something can be a pizza. Now, they all have different energies to it and different qualities. Now, the more that you become energetically aware of yourself and become more self-aware, you can become more discerning of what energy is yours and what energy is not. The problem is when you've got a lot going on, if you're anxious, you're stressed, maybe you're not feeling very well, you're overstimulated, or you're amongst a lot of people, it can be very easy to take on their energy and to become a bit fragmented. So the key here is, remember 1 and 2, get grounded, meditate. The more you meditate and get still, it's easier to do that in certain environments. The 3 is becoming energetically aware. And when you become aware of what is not yours, it is easy to let go. It's far easier to say, no, that's not mine, and become more boundaried. And that's why boundaries is number 4. Okay. And going back to, because even though I'm going to talk about number 4, if you think about energy is everything. And lots of things, like some healers work in a very more physical way. They work with meridians, if you think about, and even though they work with the mind, they don't work at a psychic or as much as at a spiritual level. And some healing modalities are very good at getting to the more physical, mental and emotional, and some are much better again at the psychic and energetic level, and maybe a collective level. Everything's different, and it depends on the gift of the actual healer. And the more that you become aware of energy and recognize the difference and understand the subtle differences, it is easier to let go and actually remove yourself from things that are not right. And I don't mean just physically. You know, there's a lot of things that's put out there with empaths is like everyone else is toxic, or, you know, the toxic person, or I'm removing myself from negative people. And there's a certain element, of course, that you don't want to be constantly putting yourself in toxic environments and in an environment when you're really struggling and it's making you unwell. But there's also a really unhealthy element to that. It's like an us and them. And what we've got to remember is when things are triggering us, it is triggering our wounds, our shadow. So if we're only focusing on other people's shadow, we're not focusing on what is actually triggered within us. And yes, healthy boundaries come in with that. We have to have the healthy boundaries to make healthy decisions. But the problem is that we are always avoiding certain things. And avoiding what triggers us, we create really problems for ourselves. So it's getting that balance. Now, the 5th thing I would say is then being aware, which relates to all of these things, is aware of your shadow. Aware of the things that are triggering you. So become energetically aware of what's yours, what's not, but understanding the things that are triggering you. And that's why things like shadow work can really be supportive. Inner work, archetypal work can really help. And when you understand the shadow and the things that are showing up, it can really support you. But also within the shadow work is actually knowing, like in archetypal work, it's not just about seeing the shadow, it's seeing your powerful gifts. So part of recognizing the shadow and healing that is actually healing what you have, all those beautiful gifts that you have. And the easiest way to look at it is they maybe just get a bit tarnished, or they're so deep down that they're not getting used the right way, or you've not mastered those gifts yet. So you're maybe, it's like giving a child, you know, you're trying to teach them how to cook, and you give them a knife to chop the vegetables, and then we do something stupid with it. And that's what it can be like when we're not mastering our gifts, or we're scared of our gifts. So the last one is, you know, really looking at the shadow. And that can really support us, because the more that we look at our own shadow and look at the things that are stopping us from evolving and grow, but actually it's easier to protect our energy and support our energy and become more mentally and emotionally resilient. Now I'll give you one example, which is a really good example, is the innocent archetype is a beautiful archetype, you know, because it's pure, they're all about idealism, innocence, hope, optimism. The only big challenge with the optimism and the hope of the innocent is reality, is if you think about the innocent child, and the innocent child has to grow up, the innocent child has to eventually face things that it doesn't want to, things that are uncomfortable, things about itself and things about the world around them. And that archetype, one of the ways that shows up even in clients is where they just, even you can see this in the healing and spiritual community, where they only focus on love and light. They don't focus on the shadow work and don't want to see truth, or they only want to hold on to their particular beliefs and they want to be right. And they judge the world as like polarity, like maybe even black and white, and you're bad, I'm good, you're rich, so you're bad, or you're greedy and I'm not, that kind of thing. And it's very childlike and simplistic, and that when you're stuck in that aspect of the archetype, you are not facing your own shadow, and you're maybe not willing to look at the whole picture, and you want to stay small, or you want to stay childlike. I say that's a lot, and a lot of female business owners who still treat their business like a hobby. And they behave, and we all can do it to all different degrees, they behave very childlike, and where they don't want to take any responsibility, and they expect maybe someone else to bail them out of financial situations or not do certain things so that they can maintain that healthy business, and they maybe relying on a partner or relying on someone else to do things to keep that business growing. And it's because they want to treat it more like a form of play or a form of therapy, or they want to, I remember a coach said to me many years ago, put your big girl pants on. And we don't want to put our big girl pants on because we want to stay small. And we can all do it in different ways. So facing your shadow and, and owning your gifts is part of that as well, because it helps you then go into, and I'm going to add an extra one, your sovereignty. So when you have all the things that I'm talking about, it's far easier to step into your sovereignty. And when you're sovereign in your power. And actually recognizing your gifts, your archetypal gifts, your power, and recognizing that you are an aspect of God, and you've got this God essence within you, and recognizing you have sovereign rights. You are a sovereign being, and we just need to look at the last 6 years to see. One of the things that really, surprised me the last 6 years is how much people were not lacked their sovereignty. I kind of always felt that, I was struggling to have my sovereignty in certain areas in my life, but I recognised compared to most people that there was an element of me that I was owning, elements of my sovereignty, where a lot of people were just giving the power over to everyone. We still see it with people give their power in their mind over every day to the news, to media. They believe things and they don't question things. They don't ask things. They don't see the narrative. That's one way. The other way is when you allow other people to make decisions for you, when you assume that they always have your, they have your full intentions, but you're almost like giving up responsibility. We see this in medical care, where many people just go to the doctor and don't take any responsibility, don't do anything for their own well-being, and they give the power over. As soon as they walk into that door, they just take whatever they're offered. They don't question it, they don't ask. And it's like they're given their power, even if they've been given something, it's their own medication or there's been a misunderstanding, they are giving all that their sovereign power over someone else. They're not owning the power. They're not coming from that sovereign state. And we need to own more of our sovereignty. We have to recognise we are all sovereign, we're all gold. And the more that we recognise our worth and our value, and recognise that we are this God essence, it's far easier to be stronger in an energy. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please, if there's anything you would like to share or comment, and make sure you check out the resources below. Thank you for watching. Have a beautiful day. Bye bye for now.